Well, hi there. I'm Don and I'm a life coach, and I'm doing this introductory video so that you can get a sense of me and how I approach life, how I think about things, but mostly so you can get a sense about me. You've probably seen or perhaps have seen some of my other videos that I've done, and you may have gotten a sense, and you certainly can get a sense about various subjects and how I think about them and process them. So this is more just so that you get like maybe a deeper sense of how we will approach conversing and talking with one another if we do. So, whether you're a mother, a father, a life coach yourself, whether you're a businesswoman, a high-level executive, a school teacher, life is hard for everybody. And, nobody has it together. And, some people have it better than others, as we know, but everybody has some level of confusion or pain or dissatisfaction with life. And sometimes the myriad issues in life add up to either just broad confusion, and sometimes it's just deep pain, whether you're going through a divorce or you just got divorced or there was a tragedy or any number of things that can happen in life that can just cause us to recoil and hurt or not know what to do with ourselves. Maybe we're just dissatisfied with ourselves. And these are things that we'll talk about so that we could get you on a better footing. And sometimes it's just as important for you to see when you're right about your perspective on things as it is when you maybe should consider other avenues of thought and approaches to doing things. But, we'll address the source of your confusion. We'll get at, what it is that's bothering you or hurting you. You might already know, and in some cases you don't know. So, one of the things we'll look at too is whether you're just so busy in life that you're just doing life and you're not really being yourself as you're living your life. And there's a big difference. When we're younger, we tend to have a script handed to us, and in America, and it's some variation of this. You go through kindergarten, and you go through grammar school, you go through middle school, and you're starting to pad your resume. You're trying to get the good grades through high school, and you've got these extracurricular activities so you could get into the best college. And then after you go to college, you either go to grad school or you go into the workforce. Then you get the job, then you get the house, then the spouse, then you have kids, and then you raise them, and at some point you put them through college, and then you hope to have money to retire and travel. And by and large, that's the script that is handed to most of us. And frequently we don't know that internally that's the script that we're battling. So if we don't get married, or if we get married and we don't have children, or if we don't want to buy the house, but we want to just rent apartments and be nomadic, we might inside us think that there's something wrong and have that inner conflict. And there isn't a one-size-fits-all in this life. You've got to live in a certain measure true to who you are and what lives inside you. And of course, you're going to live according to some of your cultural norms and the way your society does things. But within that broad framework, especially here in America, there's a broad range of ways of being, and hopefully we'll get at helping you find how to be true to yourself. And if you're in deep pain, it can be very hard to get to that point without help. And that's something that I can help you do, is to get on a better footing so that you can address certain things that, certain ways that you want to be, and which will ultimately result in certain things that you want to do. I don't use the term coaching per se for what I do. It is life coaching because that's the industry term, but I like to call what I do life talks. We'll talk about life. And we don't need to dig into your childhood. That's not my approach. Therapists and counselors are schooled at doing that. I'm not a therapist or a counselor. What we're going to do is talk about the context of your life now as it is. You might be driving your kids all over the place. You might have one kid that's a challenge. If you have more than one child, you typically have one that's a challenge. And it can just get very busy, and you might not be able to process things. But we're going to take a look at all the myriad issues. What might be going in your marriage, or if you're not married, what is going on that is just bothering you or confusing you. So, keep in mind this is not therapy and this isn't counseling, because those are legal distinctions and those are regulated industries, if you will. And there are techniques that are used and intense schooling that therapists and counselors go through. This is just to help you in the context of your life now, and to understand and just talk about various aspects of it. So we'll go broad with things and we'll go deep on certain things, and I will give you things for you to think about, maybe that you'd never thought of before. And having run a dance school and owned a dance studio, a large one, for 20 years, I have seen so much of what goes on within families from the time the kids are a week old right on up through great-grandmothers. And I've understood so much of generally what works and what may not be working, and where confusion can creep in between husbands and wives, and how to understand each other better. Because you do get busy if you do have children and are married, and let's say you have a career, it gets busy and it can get away from you, and you could grow, increasingly become dissatisfied, and you might think it's your spouse, you might think it's your kids, you might think it's yourself. And we can talk about the various things so that you can get a decent handle on how you want to change. A lot of life does come down to, when we're dissatisfied, it isn't necessarily about changing what's out there. It could just be about changing how we're relating to it or processing it, and then perhaps try to make, some changes within, your family or what have you. So, there's another type of life coaching, which is called executive coaching. And I've owned my own businesses for 25 plus years. And even though I can do that, and there's great value in executive coaching, if you have a career goal that you'd like to get to, that next promotion, or you might have fear in certain aspects, executive coaches can help you set a 5 or a 10-point plan, and they'll hold you accountable to the things that you both agree upon. And there is value in that, and I can do that, but for me, that's not my focus. My focus is a little broader, in that a career is one part of life, but you can have a wonderful career and still be very unhappy in life. So I go after sort of the broader issues, and that's more of my interest. But we can talk about business life as well, because I understand what goes into running your own business, starting your own business, maintaining your own business, and so forth. But I like to tie everything into family life, your personal beliefs, your faith. All of these things influence how you may be perceiving your own life and how you're living it. And we'll look at certain things so that your expectations are in accordance with reality. Let's put it that way. Sometimes we have very, very high ideals that we measure ourselves against. I'm guilty of this at times. And we can make ourselves unhappy because we've got these super high ideals. And if they're not realistic, if they're not attainable, we're going to be unhappy. We're going to keep trying to chase that carrot and not get there. So, from my videos, if you've watched them, even if you haven't, I'll tell you, I come from a belief that kindness, thoughtfulness, and generosity is a very good way to live your life. And I believe it's a good way for other people to live their lives. I don't insist on it because it's not for me to insist on how anybody lives their life. But I've found for me what is a driving force in my life. And we'll try to find that for you. That's one of the things that we'll talk about, is try to find out what lives in you. What is that passion? What lives in your soul or your heart or whatever we call it, so that you're living your life in almost every moment true to who you are and what you believe. But Billy Joel has this great line, as I alluded to before, about seeing when you're right, and you can't always see it. And the line he's got in his song Vienna is just that. He says, you can see when you're wrong, though you know you can't always see when you're right. And I think from the time that we're young, when we're being given tests and so forth, which I'm not opposed to tests, but we tend to focus on what we got wrong. If we got an 80 on a test or a 90 on a test, let's say, we're in 5th grade and there are 10 questions on a test and we got 9 right. You'd be happy that the teacher wrote that you got an A, but you'd be like, well, what did I get wrong? What did I get wrong? And if that's your orientation, which perfectionism certainly has that orientation, but we're schooled to kind of see where we're wrong, where we're inadequate, where we're less than enough. And we might be doing that to other people. We might be doing that to our children, to our spouse, to ourselves, to whomever. That can create a sense of dissatisfaction and dashed expectations, because relationships start to break down and you don't necessarily know why. And part of it can just have to do with the fact that we're looking at what's wrong versus what's right. And if we do that to ourselves, if we're looking at where we're wrong more often, well, sometimes it takes a person to say, you're not wrong in your perspective. You might want to tweak this a little bit or change this a little bit or consider doing this, but the bulk of your perspective seems to be a good one, so let's take a look at these other areas. And that's where I can help you and will help you just discuss the aspects of your life to see where you can decide to make things better. And there's nothing formulaic about our conversations. They won't follow a script. They won't follow a process. It's just going to be conversing about your life within the context of it. We may talk about something one week or one day, and then that very circumstance arises again, and it's maddening to you or frustrating, or you can't get a grip on it or whatever. And we'll just talk about those things as they happen. And, for you to sort of get a sense as you're living your life as to how you want to approach these things. Living in this world, as we know, involves conflict. Even when you watch a Hollywood movie or television shows, most people don't know this, but the driving force behind movies in Hollywood is conflict. You've got a protagonist or the hero and an antagonist. Always, you've got like the good guy and the bad guy. And frequently they want the same thing and they're fighting for it. Or, sometimes they want different things. One person wants world peace, the other wants world chaos. But it involves conflict. And we identify with conflict because we live with it constantly. We can relate frequently to what's going on the screen in some way, or in TV shows. But that conflict can get to be too much sometimes when it's in our own lives. When we see maybe our children suffering and we don't know if we're the source of it, or maybe we're going through a divorce and we can't think clearly at all. And those sorts of conflicts involve deep pain. And when we talk, it will be at times just to keep you on an even keel, or an even enough keel to where you can continue to function each day. Because sometimes in life it can be hard just to get off the couch or get out of bed in the morning. And sometimes it can be very difficult to go to bed at night, if you're divorced or if you're in deep pain, if you're alone, and those sorts of things. So, faith is another part of life. I'm constantly revising mine and sometimes making wholesale changes to it. And that, once you get comfortable making changes to deep-seated beliefs or deep-seated things, life actually does get easier because you become more malleable to to living your life according to what not only makes sense, but to what you actually believe. And so you actually become your greatest agent of change if you're even willing to look at aspects of your faith. If you have a deeply held faith, whatever it may be, when you're willing to look at all parts of you, then you actually can start to make progress in becoming a better version of yourself, a version that you like more because there's less internal conflict. Because sometimes certain things that we believe that we were taught from when we were young, perhaps, are in conflict with the way we really think life ought to be lived. And those are certain things that we can look at too. I won't tell you what to believe. That's just not my style. But or what to think. But through our conversations, you'll learn more about how to think or how to view certain things that work better for you, so that your mind and your heart and all of you just works better for you. And we'll talk on the phone, and we can Skype, but most of our conversations will be done on the phone. We can also meet in person. I live in New Jersey now, but I spend time in New York City. I spend time in Nashville, Tennessee, and if it's convenient for us together, we'll get together. But especially if you're a mom, just driving to go meet somebody can be, for an appointment or a conversation even, can be a challenge. So we'll do the bulk of our communicating on the phone. We'll be emailing and texting in between sessions and so forth. But most of our conversations and communications will be on the phone. And check the fee structure on the website. It's there. Check my other videos, just to get a deeper, better sense maybe as to whether or not, I've already answered your questions, or whether you want to just talk more personally about specific things going on in your life. And, just to conclude, I suppose, life is hard. Anybody who thinks it's supposed to be frictionless is thinking incorrectly. That's an ideal that we're not going to realize, as we know. So, someone once said there's a price we pay just for waking up in the morning. And even though that's usually, we think, better than the alternative to not waking up in the morning, it's hard. There are challenges frequently when we get out of bed in the morning, and it's like, oh my gosh, I have to do this, I have to get that one, my child is struggling, I'm struggling, my husband, wife, whatever. But, we get about 80 years in this life, and there are wonderful moments in it, and we'd like there to be more wonderful moments. But when we learn to handle the things that don't work, and learn to think about, and learn to process them differently, we can have more wonderful moments, or the wonderful moments that we have, we can embrace them more deeply. But to be able to get to a point where on your own you can think clearly, you allow yourself to feel grief and then get through it, but you allow yourself to even see your own flaws and accept them without, thinking you don't have them. All of these things factor into how your expectations will be met. And as hard as life is, and there will always be challenging moments, how you process going through those challenging moments, you can learn how to do that more effectively. But if you learn how to make adjustments to the way you process life, the way you view it, to reevaluate it, to rewrite that script that's within you, if you will, you'll be in a much better position to address the conflict, whether the conflict's within yourself, whether it's emanating from someone else, whether in your family or social group or job or wherever you go, at the grocery store. You'll get better at processing all of that. So I look forward to speaking with you. Shoot me an email, give me a call. My number's on the website as well, and we can figure out what the best course of action would be. So have a great day, and I look forward to talking with you. Bye-bye.